Welcome to Scorched Earth. This is going to be a general reading for the sign of Taurus, Sun, Moon and Ascendant. And apologies in advance, I'm getting totally battered by the retrograde. It seems worse for me because it's in Pisces, and that is not an energy that I align with terribly well, despite my daughter being a Pisces and me having lots of Piscean friends who I adore. For some reason, the energy just really gets me, and the retrograde on top is just fucking everything up, frankly. I've had a number of technical mishaps. My laptop is all but burst into flames. It is totally bricked, and I can't speak. So my inclination is to go and hide until both the retrograde and Pisces season is over. Just pop back up in Aries season. Sister fire sign energy will reinvigorate me. So I hope this makes sense to you, whatever's about to come out. And if not, then just bear with me, it's a blip. So if you need any information, have a look in the description box, because chances are I've put it down there already. Yeah, that's it, actually. So let's have 3 cards for Taurus for the month of March, please. 3 cards for Taurus for the month of March. I don't take cards when they drop to the right, because that means I have literally just dropped them. 3 cards. There's the first one. Queen of Swords. It's air energy, strictly Libra for me, but it can be any, or it can just be an energy. There's 2 more cards for Taurus. Where is Taurus right now? There we are. Oh, okay, that's interesting. 9 of Swords, more air energy. This card of, cannot remember. Gemini. Card of Gemini. So, and what's coming towards Taurus in March? What's coming towards Taurus in March? 9 of Wands, Sagittarian energy. There's 2 9s there. On the bottom of the deck, we've got the Moon, which is the card of Cancer for me, not Pisces. I'm not still smarting about that, honestly. Let's get some clarifiers and then we'll get into this, because this is distinctly different to the kind of readings that I've been getting for you for the last few months. And I'm intrigued to know what's going on with you. So, why is the Queen of Swords here, please, for Taurus? King of Swords, okay. We've got the 5 of Swords is flipped out there. I'm not going to take it because it went to the right. But I'm letting you know that it's there anyway. Queen of Swords. Where's the Queen of Swords here? The World. Okay. There's the 9 of Swords here for Taurus, please. That one wanted to come out. Ace of Cups. Okay. There's the 9 of Swords here. The Devil has flipped. Oh, and the High Priestess. Taurus. Why is the 9 of Wands here, please? There's the 9 of Wands here. Where that went. 3 of Pentacles. It's Earth energy. It's the first Earth card we've got on the table, actually. Oh no, there's the World here as well. What's the 9 of Wands here, please? and the Mage, which is the Magician in a standard deck. On the deck we've got the Three of Cups, which talks about sometimes reconciliation, and it can do. It can just talk about friendship, actually, joy of proper friendship, support, all that sort of thing. I'll move that. So this is a distinctly different tone to what we've been seeing recently. At the bottom of the main deck, we've got the Moon, which talks about the internal space, right? It talks about those things that drive us internally that we're not even necessarily aware of, right? It's the subconscious or the non-conscious, as I saw it referred to in a book recently, which I thought was interesting. Anyway, you know, it's things that are hidden, it's things that are obscured, and that's for me why it talks about subconscious, because I do very much approach tarot in that kind of way. You know, it's things that are swimming along underneath that you're not really necessarily aware of. For all this owl, which is a very wise creature, is flying across the top, you know, you try and see into water by moonlight, it's virtually impossible. You can't tell if it's an inch deep or 100 feet deep. But there's a sense of wanting to get some clarity on a situation that is currently quite mysterious and obscured to you. The first card that you've got is the Queen of Swords. Now, the Queen of Swords gets a bad rap, right? Because she's sometimes a bit harsh, and she can be. You know, in her shadow aspect, she can actually be, a bit a bitch. There's no question about it. But of all the queens, she's kind of suffered a little bit. And I'm drawn immediately to the fact that we've got this bird that's flying along on the top there. And it looks to me very similar to that bird there, that owl flying across the top. She's a woman who puts her emotions to one side when she's making decisions about things. She's aware of her emotions, but she's also aware that there are situations where emotions should not come into play. Because for me, she's like the lower echo of the Justice card, right? So she's very concerned with fairness. She's very concerned with things being done properly. And there aren't many emotional perspectives or pleas that are going to shake her position. Well, there aren't any, in fact, that are going to shake her position of knowing what is right. She's got great clarity of thought. But her job, in the court is to cut out the bullshit of any sort of situation. Like, for me, she actually works as a filter. All of the court cards do, up to the king, right? The page, the knight, and the queen. They're kind of like different levels of filter. So by the time stuff really hits the king, it's not about cutting out the bullshit anymore, right? Because it's already been done, and she is the pinnacle of that kind of activity, I guess. She's always sniffing out the truth, and for me, she's an energy of you at the moment, right? Something, and this is in your recent past, coming into your present. It feels like something's had you on alert. She's sat bolt upright and she's kind of beckoning someone to come towards her, and it's almost like her bullshit detector's gone off at some point, and she's getting someone to come towards her to kind of explain themselves so that she can use her own, very fine mind to sift through what this person has to say and decide whether it's actually got any validity at all. And the two cards that clarify it are the King of Swords and the World. Right? So bear in mind what I was just saying about the bullshit filter, if you will. By the time things hit the king, all of the extraneous stuff, all of the overly emotional stuff, all of the stuff that is wrong, all of the stuff that is not in good standing, those things that are not equitable and such like, they've all been cast by the wayside, they've been filtered out. And then we get to the king. And what the king is concerned with is doing the right thing for everyone, right? But this king looks pretty burdened, right? It's quite an unusual depiction for a King of Swords. He's sat down and he's obviously in a state of contemplation, right? Whatever has filtered its way through the rest of the court, you know, has finally reached his ears. And it feels like he looks actually pretty sad. You know, he's sat down in quiet contemplation, perhaps even reflection. And he's got a moon. He's got a moon behind him. So, it feels like this is inner work. Like, maybe you have been filtering out some of your own bullshit, right? And what you've been left with is something that doesn't sit as comfortably as you would like, because he doesn't look comfortable, really. You know, he looks quiet, he looks reflective, but he doesn't look overjoyed with the conclusions that he's come to or what he's been presented with, you know, and he's mulling it over. And he is a master communicator. But at this point, in the way that he's depicted, he is not communicating at all, right? And this is why I feel it's all very internal. And then we've got the world, right? Now, this depicts the 4 fixed signs usually. So we've got Taurus. I was going to reel off a load of signs that absolutely weren't fixed there. Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo. Right? So it could be that one of those is important, one of those is in the mix somewhere. But if not, because you are on that card, and because these are together, it feels like what's come to you is the realization that something needs to end. Now, this can be in any respect. You've got to take it as it resonates to you, right? Maybe this is an external situation to you. Maybe this is a situation that involves other people. But maybe this is just something about your internal space, right? You know, maybe you've spent a bit of time in reflection about the past, and we are in a retrograde. That's exactly the point of the energy. You know, mull things over, come to better conclusions, learn from it, move on. You haven't really liked what you've seen. You know, it's left you feeling a little bit weary. I might even go as far as to say defeated. Although I'm not sure defeated is right, actually. But certainly heavy. It's a pretty heavy energy, where the King of Swords for me usually feels quite light, because he's very mentally dexterous, he's very agile, you know, his mind is not weighed down with things. Here he is weighed down. And then we have the card of an ending, right? Because the Fool's journey runs from the Fool right the way through the major arcana to the world at the end. You know? And there's a great sense of distance. You know, maybe you've been contemplating a situation that involves someone that you are not in contact with anymore. Maybe there is a big geographical distance. This looks like it's been you know, drawn from the moon. You know, sat on the moon, and here's the world back here. You know, and there's all this distance here between you and a person that you've been, you know, mulling over, and it feels like it can't be bridged in some ways. But if not, then there's an ending. There's a sense of an ending. There's a contemplation of an ending. And whether that's one that you're bringing in or one that you brought about, or they brought about, you know, take it as it resonates to you. Then remember, the energies can flip too. Tell me more about this world card, please. What's this world card here for? What's the world card here for? Is it even the right deck that I'm using? No. The wrong deck. Bear with me. What is the world card here for Taurus, please? The Devil. So it could be a Capricorn. But if not, it talks about a toxic relationship. It talks about a toxic situation of some description, right? And that can be addiction, that can be codependency, that can be abuse, actually, of some description. But it's a sense of being chained to something, right? So maybe there was something, there's an ending, which, although it occurred, you still feel very chained to. still feel very bound to. Or maybe it was just, good Lord, a situation that you left behind. You know? I'm going to go and get that card that pinged off down there. Ooh. We've got the Four of Wands, which for me speaks of home. It speaks of security and stability, as all of the fours do, but it talks about celebration. You know, it's sometimes a wedding card, right? Maybe this is someone you jilted at the altar, like, maybe it's possible. But it could be something, a situation that you thought was comfortable, that you thought was home, you know, maybe it's family, something like that. But it actually turned out to be really rather toxic, and you turned your back on it. You've been doing a bit of contemplation about your part in it. That's possible. I'll have another card for that, please. Have another card for that. Yeah. For whatever reason, you've hit a bit of a crossroads. And this is in your recent past, right? And there's a lot of internal work going on, and there's a lot of consideration of this situation here, right? Which was in some way toxic, and you'll have to fill in the gaps because I don't know. But it's the home life was toxic, right? And you're at a bit of a crossroads because you need to choose a direction now. Right, like maybe all of this stuff has been kind of, you know, bubbling on underneath for some time, years possibly, but now, for whatever reason, whether it's the retrograde or whether there's just the, you know, particular combination of planets that we've got in the sky, there's something about it that you're in serious contemplation of. You don't really understand it as yet, but you know that things are coming to a head internally, right? This is the point where you need to work through it. And the next card that we've got is the Nine of Swords, right? And that's mental anguish. That's insomnia. That's overthinking. That's being kept up at night. It's a long, dark night of the soul, is what it is. And it fits, the feeling that I get off this card is very similar to the feeling that I'm getting off this card right here. You know, it's a position of not liking the conclusions that you come to. You know, maybe you blamed somebody else for a particular situation, and as you've matured and you're starting to look at this properly now, you're starting to understand that actually you played a part in it somewhere, and you're not really comfortable with that. And that's kind of shadow work. That's what shadow work is. You know, be careful. You know, keep looking after yourself, but it's important work. The thing is with this card, particularly, is that the 9 swords are stacked up in the air, right? Swords being words and communications, they can be, you know, ways that we speak to ourselves. There are ways that other people have spoken to us, that we've spoken to people. You know, it's the transmission of opinion and ideas between heads, or even to different parts of our own head, right? This person is up, they can't sleep, they can't focus, really. But all of these swords are horizontally on the wall, right? And I feel like that's really important because for me, for the most part, swords up, when depicted, are good. They talk about truth, they talk about honour, integrity, justice, all of those kind of things. When the swords are down, it means the reverse, right? So we're talking about dishonesty, we're talking about lies, we're talking about lack of integrity, lack of honour. We're talking about somebody who deliberately deceive, yeah? All of these swords are stacked horizontally, which for me means that they are effectively neutral, right? They're not, she's not being threatened with them. You know, there's nobody else in the bedchamber kind of like, you know, threatening to hack off her legs with them or something. And they're not spearing her like we would expect to see in the Ten of Swords, right? They are stacked in a very neutral, horizontal way up the wall. And so for me, this comes to mean, I think, that those things that you're worrying about actually have less of a basis in reality than you currently consider them to do so, right? And often this is a situation of perspective, right? Because somebody could walk into this room and go, what a beautiful array of swords you have on the wall there. You know, that's quite a collection. You know, maybe they're rare swords, maybe they're antique swords, something cool. Right? Another person could walk into there and go, oh my God, I'm going to die. Now, what's different about those two situations? Literally nothing physically. What's different is the expectation that arises from the view of these, right? It's perspective. If you go into something and you're already afraid for your life, you walk into a room where there are loads of swords on the wall, and your mind is going to leap to that thing. If you walk in comfortable, if you are not feeling threatened in any way, then those swords are just, you know, they're just wall adornments, effectively. But it's definitely overthinking a situation. Now, shadow work is good. Delving deep is good. Using the retrograde energy to do it is even better. But there's a sense of you taking it a little too far in March, or just becoming mired in it, you know, not taking a step back, not being objective about it, but just kind of drowning in the energies that you're, you know, surrounding yourself in at the moment. And the interesting thing is the two cards that you've got to clarify that are the Ace of Cups and the High Priestess. And I feel like there's potentially, just because I know how the Taurus readings have been going, you know, for the last few months, there's been a very heavy love component to them, right? And we've had this fire sign, most likely a Sagittarian, you know, like trampling all over the readings. Interestingly absent here. This is all very much about you, and this is all about your internal space. But we do have the Ace of Cups, right? We do have this seed, this potential. You know, the aces contain the infinite potentiality of the suit that they represent. So for Ace of Cups, it's about love. It's about new love. It's about renewal of love, of, you know, someone, something, you know, yourself, whatever it is. But this seems to be what's prompted this overthinking situation. So is this representative of the new love that's come into your life that for some reason has triggered you to look back into the past? I mean, it's quite possible it's just retrograde energy that's done that to you. But certainly the possibility of love, which at the moment seems to be still in its infancy, it's still in its potential stage, because the ace must be plucked from where it is, you know, and then worked on before it progresses any further. It is just opportunity at this point. I'm going to pull some more cards for it. Is this what has prompted this introspection that you're having? Possible. Is the Ace of Cups here, please? Moon. I'm going to take that as confirmation that I am correct. Yeah. Oh, fuck. Oh, sorry. Oh, you're not going to believe this. Swear to God, tarot is so cool. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Ace of Wands, right? This is a passionate new start. It's the second ace, right? My friend calls it the dick card. The two cards that we have here, the Ace of Cups and the High Priestess, are clarified by the Moon and the High Priestess, right? This is cool. The Moon coming out when it did is, for me, a confirmation that what I was just talking about is true, right? There's something about the potential of this new relationship that, and fuck, what, the reason that I was just like witchering about and just going, fuck, about everything, was that I just remembered the title of the last video that I put up for Taurus, and it was something about I can't even remember how I fucking termed it now. It was something about this new relationship prompting some self-evaluation and to go with it, right? Because deep work and internal work and all that sort of it's valuable, it's useful, it's what it is. And then the Moon popped out, right? So that for me is confirmation that you're kind of falling into a hole with it now, Taurus. right? And then we've got the High Priestess, and it's clarified by the High Priestess. I might pull another card for that as well. But the High Priestess talks about wisdom primarily, right? But it's secret wisdom. Right? Because for me, she sits between what is the end and the beginning. Yeah, these two pillars here. Right? She occupies that space in between. Right? And she's very passive. She doesn't do anything. And if she moves at all, which is very rarely, it's led entirely by her intuition. Right? She has a lot of knowledge, but better than that, she has wisdom, and wisdom is the application of knowledge, right? But it's also secret, it's also internal stuff, right? We've got 2 cards of the deep internal, 3 cards of the deep internal, to be fair. You know, with this card here, another card of the internal. Moon, High Priestess. I think that you're... Honestly, how it feels to me, Taurus, is like you've been so thrown by whatever this information is that's come to light for you about your internal space, whatever your new understanding is, that suddenly you've lost the ability to discern between your intuition and that little knittery voice, right? Because I feel like that's what's pulling you down right now, right? They've become conflated in your head. You've gone too deep, or you're going too deep. And it's time to pull back, because actually what you're doing now is sitting in an energy of stagnancy, right? You are literally keeping yourself stuck and you cannot move. What the fuck have I just done with that deck of cards? Oh, there, right there in front of me. All this new stuff has come along, right? And you were so excited about it, all of it. And I see nothing here that suggests that you shouldn't be. Fuck, I've just realised there is a card of Sagittarius on the table, never mind. There's nothing saying that you shouldn't be. But whatever this process of self-evaluation, and this is an internal work that you've been doing, right, has thrown up for you, it feels like it's kind of knocked you for 6 a little bit. Now, I mean, good. It's kind of like a little mini tower moment for you, but it's coming up so that you've got a chance to process it properly. And once you've processed it properly, it ceases to have the ability to control you in the way that it did before. You know, it's quite possible that this relationship is so important for you that it requires you to make sure that you're not likely to repeat any issues that you may have, you know, accidentally committed in the past. You know, ways that you may have sabotaged yourself without even realizing that that's what you were doing. But because it's come up, yeah, like, just got 2 8s there. 8 of literally was just talking about sabotage. Self-sabotage. Because it's come up under the 9 of Swords, you know, with these stepped swords and stuff, and you're overthinking it. Like, have you ever considered the possibility, Taurus, that the issue that you are actually being pulled to examine is not the issue in which you are currently mired, that you cannot see a way out of, whatever that this is here, and that actually is merely a guidepost pointing you to the real issue, which is the overthinking, right? I'm just going to throw it out there because it suddenly seems very obvious to me that that's possibly what it is. You know, you're reacting to what you understand about yourself now, but in doing so, what you're actually doing is the issue in and of itself, and that's the thing that needs looking at. That's the thing that you need to separate yourself from a little bit, and it would explain why you cannot discern the difference now between your intuition and your fears. You know, they seem to be speaking with the same voice, and it's because you're overthinking it over and over and over again. You know, what was I saying? Perspective. This is about perspective, and the issue not being exactly what you think it is. It's actually really clever if this is what your brain is doing. I'm impressed. More for the high priest, guys. No more cards. That's it, right? That's the issue that you're dealing with at the moment. It's not what you think it is. And here's the Ten of Swords on the bottom of the deck. Whatever's left you feeling, you know, possibly a number of things, like shame, embarrassment, you know, maybe slight humiliation, you know, maybe all of these things. Like, the symptoms, they're not the cause. Once you nail the cause, and I feel like this is saying to me that I've got this right here, like, the problem is the overthinking, then it stops. Once you can stop the overthinking, the rest of it, yeah, like, we've got the Four of Swords directly underneath, the Ten of Swords there. Step your mind down, right? This is not the point for you to be trying to use your 3D intellectual brain to pull this situation apart. You need to meditate. You need to think a little less and feel a little more, right? Because you're getting yourself trapped. So what we've got coming towards you in March is the Nine of Wands. Now, the Nine of Wands is the card of Sagittarius, right? But it's also the wounded warrior, right? It's somebody who wants more than anything else to be able to sit down and rest, right? He's obviously been battling quite a lot. And he's got this one wand that he's hanging off. But it's all bandaged up, you know, it's all fucked up. Look at him. Right? Head, arm, everything. And he's got all of these walls erected behind him. Now, I feel almost certain that this card came out for you last month as well, because it was talking about the importance, I think I was talking about the importance of erecting boundaries, right? But I can't even remember if it was Taurus now or if it was a different sign, but I was definitely talking to somebody about boundaries being super important, but understanding that you needed to, you know, understand the fact that when you stand on the other side of the boundaries, you possibly lock yourself in with things that you don't have the tools to process properly unless you look at them, right? I think it was a personal reading, actually, is what I was talking to someone about. Right? Because boundaries keep you safe, right? They say, this is my line in the sand. Like, I will tolerate you approaching to here, and that's fine. But if you misbehave in any way, then you're going to hit my boundary, and I'm going to have the self-respect and the, you know, self-esteem and the confidence and all this kind of things to say, no, I'm not going to accept that, right? It's not about laying down rules. It's not about, you know, you turning to a person and saying, I'm not going to fucking put up with that. And if you come at me with it, then I'm going to, you know, I'm going to make your life hell or anything like that. It's not about that. It's very calmly, very coolly saying, right, this is what I will accept, right? If you do this, then I will do this, because I am in charge of myself and nothing else. I cannot control the way that you behave, but I can control myself. Now, good boundaries are excellent and they're really important, but when you have a voice that chatters away on the inside that you have not yet learned to settle, and particularly if that said voice has somehow mashed itself up with your intuition to the point where you can't quite trust it now. If you're sitting on this side of the boundaries with everybody else there, you're locking yourself in here, right? And so you need to be more discerning about what you allow to speak to you from the inside of your head, right? I hope that makes sense. Because you have to keep fighting. You don't have a choice, right? But fight smarter, not harder. You know, you can expend a lot of effort, and really, you've been doing that. The key is somewhat counterintuitive, because it's about expending less effort. It's about stepping your brain down, slowing it down, stopping it being in control of everything all the time. Meditate, take the time. Let your voice, your proper voice, surface, so that you may be able to tell the difference between that and the fears, right? And the two cards that you've got to clarify are the Three of Pentacles and the Mage. And interestingly, for the Three of Pentacles, it depicts only two people on it, right? Usually there's three people. In this one, there's two. They're building a cathedral, and it's awesome. But one of them is the mason, and the other one is obviously, in charge of the plans. Is maybe the foreman, is maybe the monk who's in charge of the mason, whatever it is. But these two are working together to create something that will last for a long time. Now, you could take this in a slightly esoteric sense and say, the work that you are doing on yourself to connect yourself either with your higher self or your inner self, or however you want to interpret it, right, is building something solid that is not going to get knocked down again. Whichever ways that you are feeling vulnerable and in danger, I guess, because I get a sense of that, like if you're feeling threatened, working together with your higher self or your inner self or whatever will create something that is no longer or that is resilient to that kind of thinking, right? That's possible. But the other way to read it is that erecting these boundaries, not just for you and your interactions with the rest of the world, but you and your interactions with your fears and stuff, is what is going to allow you to build something that is going to last, something that is going to allow you to build properly with someone else. Because at the moment you're in such, overthinking, I feel it's panic. It's a panicked feeling about it, It's reactive as well. You find yourself, buffeting from one thing to another, overthinking the shit out of everything, blaming yourself for it, taking lots of responsibilities on it, shame, embarrassment, humiliation, and just giving yourself such a hard fucking time that it's not necessary. Like, how can you go into a relationship with someone with that kind of stuff in your head? There's going to be a point where it's going to come out at the other person, and it might not be, in overt, aggression or anything, like that. Verbal aggression, not physical, I hope. But it's about you not respecting your own boundaries, over-investing, that kind of thing. That's where you need to be whole, right? You need to be fully incorporated. You need to have firm boundaries, saying. Because then we've got the mage, right? It's the magician. And that's the manifester. What you're manifesting in, currently you're not in a fit state to receive. I don't think. Not until you get on top of this, right? Not until you realise that you don't need to expend quite so much effort, right? And if you spend 1/10 of the effort on being nice to yourself as you do on, being horrible to yourself, you've probably saved like 2,000 calories a day or something. I don't know. The magician is about manifesting in, right? And what you are manifesting in, what you really, really want, is something stable, something solid, something that is created with someone else. Now, in order that you succeed at that, you need to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. Because if you go into it broken and over-investing, it's not going to be successful. It's not going to work. It's not going to do it. More cards for 3. Yeah. On the bottom of the deck, we've got the Seven of Swords. So there's a level of deception here, right? And the deception is self-deception. The deception is that you're looking at the wrong thing. The deception is that you're actually being really mean to yourself when it's completely undeserved. You need to step back from this a little bit. Yeah, we've got the fucking magician underneath there as well. Like, in order in order to be the fullest, most complete version of yourself that it is possible to be, you need to put the swords down, Taurus, right? There's far too much fucking negative sword stuff in here. Like, both of these cards, they're really painful energies to be sat in, right? Stop deceiving yourself. Stop being mean to yourself. Stop doing all of these things. And start being gentle with yourself. Start meditating on things. Start learning to discern the difference between your fears and your intuition. Because what we've got is stuff under here. Like, you still have wounds. You still have old wounds. And they are still, you have not plucked out the root of what causes you to overthink. You know, the overthinking is the issue. I swear to God, it is. But it's caused by this. Losing that allows you to move forwards lighter, you know, with no baggage, because like the Fool is, you know, he's moving forwards in perfect love and perfect trust and all that kind of thing. But the really important thing about the Fool is he has absolutely no idea where he's going. This is uncharted territory. This is somewhere that you haven't been before. And in order for you to successfully employ the Fool energy, you have to drop all of the things that cause you to go around in the same circles over and over again, to repeat the same patterns over and over again. And it's all stemming from this, whether this is, you know, a previous relationship, or whether this is, you know, it goes back further than that, you know, relationships with your family, things, you know, that sort of thing. You'll have to fill in the gaps, because I don't know, I've been waffling for fucking days now. But this is your end goal, and you cannot go off in the energy of the Fool with, you know, no baggage and a lightness of spirit if you are trying to do things the same way that you have always done them. Right? This is what March is here to tell you, and this is probably what the retrograde energy is throwing up for you. Right? It didn't work. Drop it. Try something new. Try being nice to yourself. Right? You're going to feel a bit weird and a little bit self-indulgent for a while, but some of it's going to stick. And because you're an earth sign, you know, slow and steady, little steps, all that kind of thing. But you've lost sight of your intuition, and that's not a good place to be. So I'm going to leave it there, because, you know, fucking 42 minutes, and I feel like half of that was me just spazzing my words because it's the retrograde and I can't speak properly, so I had nothing more useful to give you. I'm going to see you in about 10 days or so for the mid-months, and hopefully I'll have got on top of my tongue by then and be able to speak. But yeah, take care. Be nice to yourself, Taurus, and I'll see you shortly.